Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'll begin with the new chapter, that is the urinary system. Okay, so in today's video we shall consider in detail the kidneys, which is one of the organs of the urinary system. Okay, so before going into the detailed aspects about the kidney, let us talk about the urinary system. So this particular system, it is actually helpful in the waste management of the body. Okay, so the majority of the waste from the body, may it be a metabolic waste or the foreign waste in the form of some dietary products or drugs which are xenobiotics, which are totally foreign. So these are removed mainly through the urinary system in the form of urine. Okay, so in the form of a liquid waste, the urine, it helps to detoxify our body. So most of the toxic substances or the metabolic breakdown products, these are eliminated from the body through the urinary system. So we have seen that to certain extents the digestive system, it helps in removal of the solid waste from the body in the form of feces. The respiratory system, it deals with removal of the gaseous waste from the body, that is the carbon dioxide which is generated in the tissues, and the urinary system, which in true sense is an excretory system. So it helps in excreting most of the toxic substance from the body. Apart from that, the urinary system also plays a number of other roles also in regulation of several aspects of the body, in helping in maintenance of the homeostasis within the body. Okay, but the main aim is to remove the waste from the body in the form of urine. Okay. Now coming to the organs which constitute this particular system. Okay. So this is actually the location of the urinary system. So as you can see that this is the diaphragm. So diaphragm, it's actually a skeletal muscle, right? Dome shaped arrangement of this skeletal muscle which help in the respiration, right? We have seen it helps in changing the volume of the thoracic cavity. So this diaphragm, it separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. Okay, or you can say that it is abdominopelvic cavity actually. Okay, so the location of the urinary system is in this abdominopelvic cavity. Okay, now the different types of organs which constitute this particular system, this includes two kidneys. So kidneys are paired in nature. So there are two, right kidney and the left kidney. Similarly, there are two ureters which are originating from each kidney, that's the right ureter, and this one is the left ureter. So they convey the urine which is produced by the kidneys towards the single urinary bladder, that's the one. Okay, so there is only one urinary bladder into which the urine formed by both the kidneys is stored. Okay. and there is one urethra. So, a single tubular structure will convey the urine which is stored in the bladder towards the exterior via the urethra. So, the urinary system, it comprises of the 4 main types of organs, okay, out of which the actual functions of the urinary system, these are carried out by the kidneys, whereas the rest of the parts, that is the ureters, urinary bladder and the urethra, they either help in transportation of the urine or storage of the urine. Okay. So, these are the different organs which constitute the urinary system. Now, the kidneys, the main function, as I told you, it is the urine formation, okay, which is actually a liquid waste which needs to be removed out of the body. So, how this urine production takes place? Okay, from what urine is formed? It is actually formed by the filtration of the blood. Okay. So, the blood, it gets filtered. Now, filtration of the blood through the capillaries. So, will the formed elements or the proteins, will they get filtered out? Can they move out of the capillaries? The plasma proteins and the formed elements, RBCs, WBCs and the fragments, that is the platelets, yes, they cannot cross the capillary endothelial layer, right. So, everything except these plasma proteins and the formed elements, all the dissolved substances will get filtered out. So, water along with all the solutes which are dissolved in it, so all will get filtered out, and by certain addition and certain reabsorption, the formation of urine will take place. Now, in this process of formation of urine, most of the water and the solutes which are filtered out actually from the blood, these will return back to your bloodstream. Ultimately, it will come back to your bloodstream. So, only as much as ions or solutes or water which is not required by the body, only that much will get excreted out. Okay. So, whatever is not needed, that amount of water and the solutes, they constitute the urine. Of course, we will deal with the urine formation in detail in later videos. Okay. So, the unwanted or the excess of water and the solutes, apart from what is required to maintain the fluid and electrolyte balance in the body, there is something called fluid and electrolyte balance of the body, right, to maintain the homeostasis. So, the amount which is required to maintain this balance, apart from that, whatever excess amount of water and solutes, that will be actually excreted in the form of urine. Apart from that, the added substances like the waste material, the metabolic waste or foreign waste will be added to it, and it will be removed out of the body. Okay, so, whatever urine, it is produced by these kidneys, it will be passing through these ureters, it will descend downwards towards the urinary bladder. This is the urinary bladder, that is the uterus. This is actually the system which is shown in a female. Okay. So, this is your urinary bladder, into which the ureters will carry the urine. So, urinary bladder will store it temporarily. So, as the urine production, it is a continuous process, continuous filtration will be going on, but the voiding of urine or the passage of urine, that is actually called as a micturition reflex. That's actually a voluntary reflex, right? You can control it. Okay, so till then, till you void the urine out, it is collected by this particular organ, that is the urinary bladder, and it is stored over there temporarily. So once this bladder, it is full, the micturition reflex will take place and voiding of urine, that is passage of the urine out of the bladder through this urethra will take place. Towards the exterior. Okay. So this is how the kidney will look like, the actual picture of the kidney. And just superior to the kidneys are located the adrenal gland, which is an endocrine gland. We'll deal with this also as we start with the endocrine system. Okay, so let us focus on the kidney. Okay, so as you can see that it is a kidney bean shape structure, right? So actually the kidney beans get their names from the shape of the kidneys. And there is a structure that's called as a hilum through which this ureter will be emerging. That's your ureter. Apart from that, the kidneys will also be supplied by blood, correct? It's a vital organ, right? Your heart, brain, lungs, kidneys, liver, these are your vital organs, right? They play a very important role in your body. Imagine if the kidney is damaged, what will happen? What will happen to the waste? From where it will be removed out? So it will start accumulating in the body. The toxins will start accumulating in the body, right? So it will start having deleterious effect in your body. So it needs to be removed out by the process of dialysis. If your kidneys fail, heard of dialysis? Removal of the blood out of the body, then passing it through certain adsorbent substances which will remove the waste, and then it is sent back to your body. So if both the kidneys fail, the person have to undergo this process of dialysis. Otherwise what will happen? The toxins will start accumulating in the body and it will start damaging the other main organs also. So it's a vital organ which is richly supplied by the blood. Of course the blood is filtered, right? So that is supplied by the renal arteries, and the oxygen is also provided by this renal artery. And the deoxygenated blood, it will then return via renal veins. So all these will enter and exit, also the nerves. So they will enter and exit at this particular point, the concave portion of your kidneys, which is facing towards the vertebral column. Now coming to the functions of the urinary system. So as a whole, this urinary system, it carries out different functions. Okay. Say for example the kidneys, they help in regulating the blood volume and the composition of the blood. Also it helps in regulating the blood pressure, the pH of the body, the glucose levels in your body. So also it produces two hormones, that is calcitriol and erythropoietin, and excretes the waste in the form of urine. So as you can see that kidneys play a number of roles. Of course we will come to all these functions a little later. How exactly this volume regulation or pressure regulation or pH, how these are regulated, what are the roles of these hormones. Okay, but as you can see that the kidneys play most of the roles, right? Whereas as you can see over here, the ureters, they transport the urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder. So its function is only the transportation. The urinary bladder, which is the next organ, what is the role of this urinary bladder? It stores the urine temporarily, and then when the micturition reflex is produced, it expels it into the urethra. And the last organ, that is the urethra, it discharges this urine out of the body. So as you can see that out of these 4 organs, it is the kidney which is playing a very important role, right? Most of the functions are regulated by the kidneys. Okay. Now nephrology, this is the, let us see some terms or terminologies which are associated with this particular system. The nephrology, neph means kidney and ology means study of. So it's the scientific study of the anatomy, physiology and pathology of the kidneys. And the branch of medicine which deals with actually the male and the female urinary system and the male reproductive system, that is referred to as the urology. Uro means urine. And the physician who is specialized in this particular branch is known as the urologist, which deals with all the conditions of the urinary system. Now, let us move on to the kidneys, which are the most important organs of the urinary system. So, let us talk about the anatomy and the histology of the kidneys. The external as well as the internal anatomy of the kidneys. And what are the different histological arrangements present in the kidneys. Apart from that, we will also deal with the blood supply to the kidneys. That is again a very important point which we will be discussing. Okay, so let us talk about the anatomy and the histology of the kidneys. So as we have already seen that it is a paired organ. So there are 2 kidneys which are present. So these paired kidneys, these are actually reddish in appearance and kidney bean shaped organs. So these are located just above your waist. As you can see, that is your waist. Just above the waist, these organs are located in between the peritoneum and the posterior wall of the abdomen. Now what is a peritoneum? We have dealt with this peritoneum when we have covered the gastrointestinal tract, right? So it is mostly covered by different layers of peritoneum, which anchors these abdominopelvic organs to the walls, right, surrounding structures and the walls. But in case of kidneys, we have also seen that it is a retroperitoneal organ. Now what is the meaning of retroperitoneal organ? Retro means something behind the peritoneum. So it is actually not covered by this peritoneum on all the sides. So it is just located behind the peritoneum. As you can see that this is the anterior part, this is the posterior part, and these are your kidneys. Now where is the peritoneum located? This one. Okay. So this is the peritoneum which almost covers most of the visceral organs, right? But in this case, it is actually covering the kidneys only from the anterior aspects. Let us have a closer look at it. So that is your peritoneum, right? That is the peritoneum. But as you can see that this peritoneum is missing in the posterior aspects. So the kidneys is directly attached to the posterior wall. There is no peritoneum which is covering it from the posterior aspects. That's why this particular organ, it is known as the retroperitoneal organ, something lying behind the peritoneum. Now let us see what is the location of the kidney, where exactly this is located. Okay. So these are located at the level of the last thoracic and the third lumbar vertebrae. In between this last thoracic, there are 12 thoracic vertebrae, right? So it extends from the last thoracic vertebra up to the third lumbar vertebra. So at this particular position, these are protected by the last two ribs, 11th and the 12th ribs. Actually these ribs are not connected to the sternum, right? They are floating. So what will happen in case if there is a fracture in these ribs, what will happen? It may damage the kidney. Imagine if this rib is fractured, it will pierce into the kidneys, right? So it can damage the kidney. Okay, so it is life threatening actually, this particular arrangement. Okay, and if you can see the position of both the kidneys, they are not located at same level. The right kidney is slightly lower as compared to your left kidney, right? And the reason for this is the liver. Now coming to the external anatomy of the kidneys. Okay, so an adult kidney, it measures about 10 to 12 centimeters in length, the length of the kidney, the 5 to 7 centimeters width, and 3 centimeter is the thickness from anterior towards the posterior side. Okay. So you can imagine the size of the kidney as the size of a bath soap, and the mass of the kidneys is 135 to 150 grams. Okay. And the concave border, as I have told you earlier, which is medial, it lies facing the vertebral column, which is located medial. Okay. And the center of this concave border, it has actually an indentation, and that is known as the renal hilum or hilus. So through this hilum emerges the ureters, right? This is your ureter. So it is emerging from the kidney through this hilum. Apart from that, the blood vessels also enter and exit the kidneys through the hilum. Even the lymphatic vessels and the nerves. Okay. Now coming to the layers which are surrounding the kidney. Okay. There are actually 3 layers of the tissues which are surrounding the kidney externally. Now the deepest layer, that is known as the renal capsule. There are 3 layers: the renal capsule, adipose capsule, and the renal fascia. These are the 3 layers which are enclosing the kidneys. So the deepest layer, known as the renal capsule, that's a smooth and transparent sheet of the dense irregular connective tissue. So this is in continuation with the outer coat of the ureters as well. Okay, so it helps protecting the kidneys against the trauma and maintain the shape of the kidney. Okay, as you can see that this one is the renal capsule. Okay, then the middle layer, it is known as adipose capsule. That's the one. So as the name implies, it will be comprising of the fatty tissues which is surrounding the renal capsule. So, this also protects the kidneys from the trauma and helps to keep the kidneys in place. So, this is the middle layer, that is the adipose capsule which is surrounding the kidneys. And the third layer, which is a superficial layer, that is known as the renal fascia, that is the one. So, it is the outermost layer, again it is made up of dense irregular connective tissue. Okay, so these outermost layer helps to anchor the kidneys to the surrounding structure and the abdominal wall. Okay, so this is the renal fascia. So these are the three layers which are actually enclosing the kidneys. Now this renal fascia, towards the anterior surface, it is surrounded by the peritoneum, but not from the posterior aspects, as we have seen that kidneys are actually retroperitoneal in nature, right? Okay. Now coming to the internal anatomy of the kidneys. So as we look at the frontal section of the kidney, it will display the distinct regions within the kidney. Okay. So as you can see that there are two distinct regions which are located within the kidneys. The superficial layer, okay, which is light red in color, okay, this one. This is known as the renal cortex. So as we have already seen what exactly is the meaning of this word cortex, we have come across the cerebral cortex, right? So cortex word means the rind or the bark, the outer portion. So this particular region, okay, this one, it is known as the renal cortex, and the deeper darker reddish brown layer, okay, or the region more appropriately, that is known as the renal medulla. Medulla means inner portion. So this region, okay, which is reddish brown in color, this region is known as the renal medulla, which is located interiorly, and superficial layer, that is known as the renal cortex. Okay. Now this renal medulla, as you can see that it is arranged in the form of several cone shaped structures called as renal pyramids. These are the ones. Okay. So that is one pyramid, that is the second one, this is the third one, that is the fourth one, okay, this is the fifth one. So a number of cone shaped structures called the renal pyramids are present within this renal medulla. Okay. Now the base of each pyramid, it is this one, it is broader, right? So this is the base of the pyramid. So it is facing towards the renal cortex, that is the renal cortex, and the apex, which is the narrow portion of the pyramids, each of the pyramids, that is called as the renal papilla, the apex of each pyramid. So it is pointing towards the renal hilum. This is the renal hilum, right? So it is pointing towards the hilum. The base is pointing towards the cortex, and the apex, which is known as renal papilla, that is facing towards the hilum. Okay. Now coming back to the renal cortex, as you can see, the appearance is smooth textured, and it extends from the renal capsule. Renal capsule, remember the three layers, the deepest layer is the renal capsule, right? So it extends from the renal capsule up to the bases of the renal pyramids over here. Okay, so this particular region in between, that's the renal cortex. Okay, so also it extends the spaces in between these renal pyramids. Now this cortex itself is divided into two zones. The outer area of the cortex, it is referred to as the cortical zone, and the one which is located towards the medulla, that is referred to as juxtamedullary zone. Juxta means something nearby. So since this deeper layer or the deeper areas of the cortex that is located close to the medulla, it is known as the juxtamedullary zone, whereas the outer portion of the renal cortex, it is referred to as cortical zone. Okay. Now, the portion of this cortex which is extending in between these pyramids. So, cortex, it is formed by this outer region as well as the areas in between these pyramid also, renal pyramids. So, that particular portion of the renal cortex, this area in between the pyramids, that is referred to as the renal columns. Here's the one. So, it is referred to the renal columns. Okay. Now, apart from this, a particular region of the kidney is referred to as the renal lobe. So, we have seen the different internal arrangements of the tissues of the kidneys, right? It mainly arranged in the form of two layers, renal cortex and the renal medulla. And within medulla there are renal pyramids, and the space in between the renal pyramids, that is called as the renal columns. Now, a specific structural arrangement is referred to as the renal lobe. As you can see over here, one renal lobe is focused. So, this includes a renal pyramid, its overlying area of the renal cortex, that is the one, that is the region, overlying area of the cortex, and one half of each adjacent renal column. So, the renal column is the area in between the two pyramids. So, one half is included over here. So, one half on this side and one half on this side. Similarly, this will be your second lobe. So, it includes a pyramid, overlying cortex, and one half of the column from this side and one half of the column from this side. So, that is a renal lobe. So, the kidney is divided into a number of lobes depending upon the number of the pyramids which are present. Okay. So, together this renal cortex and the renal pyramids of the medulla, it comprises of the parenchyma or the functional portion of the kidneys. So, the actual functions of the kidney, the main function, that is the production of the urine, it is carried out by this particular portion in which are located a number of structures, microscopic structures known as nephrons. So, within this parenchyma are located round about 1 million microscopic structures called as nephron. This is the one. That is a nephron. So, only one is depicted over here. So, how many are present? Round about 1 million such nephrons are present within a kidney. So, whatever blood is filtered by these nephrons, it will travel through these tubular structures. You can see that there are tube-like structures. So, it will be drained into the papillary ducts. Now, what will be the papillary ducts? The duct which is present within the renal papilla over here at this particular portion. So, these papillary ducts in turn will drain into a cup-like structures known as the minor calyces. So, as you can see over here, so this is one nephron which is depicted over here. So, likewise, a number of nephrons will be present, right? So, each one of it will empty its urine which is formed within it into the structures called as the minor calyces. Singular is calyx, minor calyx, one minor calyx, multiple minor calyces. From minor calyx, the urine which is produced, it will be drained into the structure called as the major calyx. So, each kidney will have round about 8 to 18 minor calyces, these ones, and 2 or 3, just 2 or 3 major calyces. Okay. So whatever urine is formed in these 1 million nephrons, it will be drained first into the papillary ducts. From there it will enter into the minor calyx. As you can see, the path of urine drainage is shown over here, and from the minor calyces it will be collected into the major calyces. Okay. So comparatively the number of the major calyces are less as compared to the minor calyces. Okay. Now from here, actually the filtrate, it is known as the urine, as it is drained into this minor calyx or the major calyx. It is known as the urine. Till then it is known as a filtrate. Now why it is so is because no further reabsorption can occur in these areas. Okay, because the simple epithelium of the nephron and the ducts, it becomes the transitional epithelium. So no process of secretion or reabsorption will take place. So it will be known as the urine, whatever is drained in this calyces. Now from here, from the major calyx, the urine will be drained into a single large cavity which is located close to the hilum, and that is known as the renal pelvis. Pelvis means basin. And from renal pelvis it will be taken up into the ureters, so that it will be conveyed towards the urinary bladder for the storage. Now this hilum, as you can see that it expands into a wider cavity, right. So this cavity, it comprises of several portions which are located over here, like the part of renal pelvis, the calyces, along with the branches of the blood vessels and the nerves. It is called as the renal sinus. So this particular cavity which is expanded over here, it is known as renal sinus. So also these particular structures will be supported by the adipose tissue, as we have seen that it is in continuation with the ureters also. Now this is to do with the external and the internal anatomy of the kidneys. Now as we have discussed earlier that the kidneys are the vital organs of the body, right. So they are richly supplied by the blood. So also the urine formation starts with the filtration of the blood, right. So it will be richly supplied by the blood, which will be filtered and which will help in the formation of the urine. So it is very important to understand the blood and the nerve supply of the kidneys. So all these functions of removal of waste, regulation of the blood volume, regulation of the blood pressure, ionic composition of the blood. So to carry out all these functions, it is abundantly supplied by blood, very richly supplied by the blood. So let us see what are the different types of blood vessels. So as they enter into the kidneys and as they branch, what are the different types of blood vessels which are formed within the kidneys. So as you can see that at this point the blood is entering the kidneys, right, through the renal artery. So the right and the left renal artery will be supplying to the right and the left kidneys respectively. So that's the entry point of your blood through the hilum. So further the blood vessels will go on dividing, ultimately they will reunite and the blood will be moving out of the kidneys via the renal veins. So as you can see that these are the different types of blood vessels, and the color coding, obviously it will tell you about the type of blood, right, whether it is oxygenated or whether it is deoxygenated. As you can see over here, These are the blood vessels which are carrying the oxygenated blood. Whereas here the exchange of gases have taken place, it is getting converted into deoxygenated blood and it is returned back to your right hand side of the heart via the inferior vena cava, right? Because it is located inferior to your heart. So, inferior vena cava will carry the blood back towards your right atrium. Sorry. So, let us talk about the blood supply of the kidney. Now, though the kidney, it comprises of only 0.5% of the total body mass, yet the amount of blood which is supplied to the kidney, it is round about 20 to 25% of the resting cardiac output. Now, what is the cardiac output? You can recall your CVS. It's the amount of blood which is pumped by each ventricle per minute. So, out of the entire volume of the blood which is pumped by your heart per minute, the left hand side of your heart, the left ventricle, the 20 to 25% of the blood, it is received only by the kidneys, via the right and the left renal arteries. So, that is the entry point of the blood into the kidneys. So, this particular blood flow towards the kidney, it is known as a renal blood flow. Renal means kidney. So, this renal blood flow through both the kidneys, it accounts for around about 1200 ml per minute. So, you can imagine the amount of blood which is supplied to the kidney. So, it is richly supplied by. Now, as this renal artery, it enters the kidney, it gets divided into the segmental arteries which supply the different segments of the kidneys. So, as you can see over here, this is one segmental artery, this is another one. Okay. So, renal artery has divided into the smaller arteries called as segmental arteries. Now, each of these segmental artery will further branch into smaller blood vessels which are actually entering into the parenchyma. As you can see the branches over here. So, these are actually entering the parenchyma. What is the parenchyma? The pyramids and the cortex and the columns, it comprises of the parenchyma of your kidney, right. So, the blood vessels are now entering into the parenchyma in the form of interlobar arteries, which is the next type of branching, interlobar arteries. So, interlobar, as the name implies, interlobar means it will be entering, each one will start entering into each lobe. Remember what is a lobe? Okay, as you can see over here, these arteries are known as interlobar artery because they are entering into the lobes, right, okay, in between the pyramids, into the columns. Okay. Now, at the bases of the renal pyramids, so where are pyramids? These are the renal pyramids, right. So, at the base of this renal pyramid, these arteries arch in between the renal medulla and the cortex. So, this one. So, as you can see, that is the interlobar artery, and now here it is arching, it is forming an arch, right, in between the cortex and the medulla. So, this arch of the arteries, that is known as the arcuate arteries. So, why they are known as arcuate arteries? Arcuate means shaped like a bow. So, since it is forming an arch in the form of a bow, it is known as the arcuate arteries. Now, further these arcuate arteries, it divide into still smaller arteries known as the interlobular arteries, the next one. So, here arcuate arteries has branched into interlobular arteries. So, these are named so because they are supplying the lobules within the lobes. further the interlobular arteries enter into the renal cortex, this region, they are entering into the renal cortex now. So here it gives off still smaller branches, these are known as the efferent arterioles. Now F means towards and ferent means to carry. So why these arterioles are known so is because they are carrying the blood towards the glomerular capsule, into it. So that's why this arteriole is known as efferent arteriole. Okay, so interlobular arteries, it will branch into efferent arterioles. So each of the nephron, it will receive one efferent arterioles. So there will be as many efferent arterioles as there are number of nephrons in this particular kidney, right? So there will be millions of efferent arterioles, right? Round about 1 million is the number of nephrons. So that many efferent arterioles will be present. So each one will supply one nephron. So as you can see over here, that's the structure of the nephron, coiled tubular structure. We'll come to the structure of the nephron in the next video. So as you can see, this portion, Bowman's capsule, it is receiving one branch of this efferent arterioles. It is bringing the blood towards this nephron. So within the glomerular capsule, these efferent arterioles further divide into highly tangled ball shaped capillary network, as you can see over here. So it's a network of capillaries into which this efferent arterioles is divided into, and it's a ball shaped structure. So this is known as the glomerulus. That means a little ball. Plural, a number of glomerulus, they are known as glomeruli. So efferent arterioles have divided into glomerular capillaries, obviously, right? Arteries, aorta, it branches into arteries, still smaller arteries, still smaller arteries. Finally they will divide into arterioles. Arterioles will divide into capillaries. Now what happens after this? After the capillaries, capillaries will reunite to form the, yes, to form the venules, right? And veins will then unite to form the veins. But is it so? The glomerular capillaries, as you can see, they are uniting into efferent arterioles. Now are they venules? No, it is uniting into the arterioles, another type of arterioles, that is efferent arterioles. F means out. As you can see that the blood has entered into the nephron, the Bowman's capsule, formed a capillary network, but it is reuniting and emerging out of this Bowman's capsule in the form of efferent arterioles. So what is this type of arrangement? Isn't it unusual from what happens normally in the body? Now usually it is the arterioles which branch into the capillaries which reunite to form the venules, but it is not so in this case. The glomerular capillaries, these are unique in that these are present in between the two types of arterioles. It does not reunite to form the venules, instead another type of arteriole. Okay, so this is the efferent one and this is the efferent one, because it is moving out. It is entering and this one is moving out. So this is the only network of capillary which is located in between two arterioles rather than in between the arteriole and a venule. Okay, so the glomerular capillaries, they unite to form the efferent arteriole which is emerging out of the Bowman's capsule. That's why it is known as the efferent arteriole. So this particular portion, the glomerulus, as it is known as the network of capillaries, in between these two types of arterioles. It is very important in that the filtration actually takes place at this particular portion. So, it is a very important portion which is a part of urinary system as well as the cardiovascular system. It belongs to both the system, right? Because it is at this place where the actual filtration of the blood will take place and urine formation will start. Further, this efferent arterioles, they will divide to form another network of capillaries that is known as peritubular capillaries. So, that is the next one. And here see the color has changed. So, what does that mean? Now, the exchange of gases has taken place. Okay. So, this efferent arterioles has branched into several capillaries known as peritubular capillaries. Now, peri means around. So, these are actually surrounding the tubular structures of your nephron. That is why these are known as peritubular capillaries. So, this is actually located within the cortex, this particular type of capillaries. These are located in the renal cortex. So, the portions of the tubules which are located in the cortical region, in this region, it is actually surrounded by these peritubular capillaries. Whereas from the efferent arterioles, another set of branching will take place which is known as the vasa recta. So, these are loop shaped capillaries which are actually supplying the tubular portions which are located in the renal medulla. Peritubular capillaries, they are surrounding the tubular parts in the renal cortex, whereas the vasa recta, vasa means vessel and recta means straight. As you can see, these are quite straighter, right? So, this particular structural arrangement of capillaries we will see a little later why exactly this arrangement of the capillaries. So, these are actually supplying the nephrons, the tubular portions which are located in the renal medulla. Further, these peritubular capillaries will eventually reunite to form the peritubular venules to collect the deoxygenated blood and then into interlobular veins. These are the interlobular veins. Okay. So, that is the next portion. Further, they will drain the blood into the arcuate veins. Now, what will be arcuate veins? The ones which form the arch in between the cortex and the medulla. That is why these are known as arcuate veins. From the arcuate veins, the blood will be drained into the interlobar vein. So, interlobar vein will be this one, the one which is present in between the two lobes. So, that is the next type of blood vessel. Eventually, all the interlobar veins will drain their blood into the single renal vein, which will leave the kidneys via the hilum, this portion. And from here, the blood will be drained into the inferior vena cava and it will be returned back to the right atrium. So, let us summarize the blood supply to the kidney. The blood will be entering via the renal arteries which will divide into the segmental arteries. Further, the segmental arteries will divide into the interlobar arteries. Further, as it arches in between the medulla and the cortex, it is known as arcuate arteries, which will be further divided into interlobular arteries. Interlobular arteries will divide further into the efferent arteriole and each one will supply to one nephron. It will enter into the Bowman's capsule where it will divide into a network of capillary, the ball shaped structure known as glomerulus. Further, these network of capillaries will reunite to form another type of arteriole known as efferent arterioles, which will further branch into another set of capillaries which is different in the cortex and the medulla. So, in the cortical region, the peritubular capillaries which surround the tubular structure in the cortex, and in the medulla it is known as the vasa recta. Further, these peritubular capillaries will unite to form the interlobular veins. Further, as it arches in between the medulla and the cortex, it is known as the arcuate veins. Further, as it passes in between the lobes, it is known as the interlobar veins, which will again reunite to form a single renal vein, which will drain into the inferior vena cava. So, this is the blood supply to the kidney, and coming to the nervous supply to the kidney. So, usually the renal nerves, they originate into the renal ganglion and they pass into the kidneys along with the renal arteries through the hilum. Actually, the renal nerves, it is a part of the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system. So, basically the diameter of the blood vessels will be regulated by these vasomotor nerves, which regulate the vasodilatation, that is increase in the size of the blood vessels, or the vasoconstriction. So, accordingly the blood flow through the kidney and the kidney functions will be regulated. Now, coming to the overview of the functions of the kidneys. So, most of the work of the urinary system is done by the kidneys, as we have seen, and other parts actually they act as the passageways or the storage areas. So, the main functions which are carried out by the kidneys, these include the regulation of the blood ionic composition, regulation of the blood pH, the regulation of the blood volume, regulation of the blood pressure, maintenance of the blood osmolarity, production of certain hormones, regulation of the blood glucose level, and the excretion of the waste and the foreign substances, which is very important function. So, let us talk about each one of it in brief. So, regulation of the blood ionic composition. So, kidneys help in regulating the levels of these ionic composition within the blood, like sodium ions, potassium ions, calcium ions, chloride ions, and the phosphate ions. Also, it helps in regulating the blood pH because it excretes the H plus ions and conserves the bicarbonate ions. So, H plus ions, it is responsible for the acidity in the body, right? So, it helps in regulating the blood pH. Regulation of the blood volume is the next function. So, kidneys, by adjusting the volume of blood which is supposed to be filtered out, or the volume of the water which is supposed to be excreted or reabsorbed. So, it helps in maintaining the blood volume. So, according to the changes in the blood volume, the blood pressure may also change, right? So, that is one of the factors. So, increase in the blood volume will increase the blood pressure, decrease in the blood volume will decrease the blood pressure. And the next one is regulation of blood pressure. Now, apart from altering the blood volume, the blood pressure is also regulated by secretion of this enzyme renin, which is a part of renin angiotensin aldosterone pathway. We will deal with this in detail. Angiotensin 2 is the one which is actually regulating the blood pressure. So, production of this angiotensin 2 is made possible by this enzyme renin, which catalyzes the first reaction, conversion of angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. It is catalyzed by this enzyme renin. Okay, so, increase in the renin will ultimately increase the level of the angiotensin 2, which in turn will increase the blood pressure. Next function is maintenance of the blood osmolarity. So, the normal osmolarity of the blood, it is maintained close to 300 milliosmoles per liter by adjusting the loss of water and the solutes. So, accordingly it will adjust the loss of amount of water and the solutes in the urine, and it will adjust the osmolarity of the body. Next function is production of the hormones. There are two hormones which are produced by the kidneys, that is calcitriol, which is the active form of vitamin D. It helps in regulation of the calcium homeostasis. And the next hormone is the erythropoietin, which stimulates the production of the RBCs. So, quite important hormones secreted by the kidneys. Next function is regulation of the blood glucose level. So, like liver, kidneys also can utilize the amino acids such as glutamine to produce the glucose molecule. So, this process is known as gluconeogenesis. So, the whatever glucose is formed, it will be released in the blood, so it will help in regulation of the blood glucose level. And the last and the most important function is the excretion of the waste and the foreign substances. So, the urine which is formed, it actually excretes the waste, that is the substances which are not used by the body. So, this waste may be in the form of the metabolic waste which is generated as a result of these metabolic reactions. So, these include the ammonia and the urea, which is formed by the deamination of the amino acids, the bilirubin, which is formed by catabolism of the hemoglobin from the worn out RBCs, and the creatinine, which is formed by the breakdown of creatine phosphate in the muscle fibers. So, also the uric acid is another metabolic waste which is formed from the catabolism of the nucleic acids. So, these are all the metabolic waste which is generated. Apart from that, certain foreign substances are also excreted via the urine. Say for example, the ones which are entering the bodies in the form of diet, or the drugs, the medicines which you take up, they are metabolized, and the metabolites or the drug as such may be excreted in the urine. That is a very important method of elimination of the drugs. Of course, apart from that, the environmental toxins are also eliminated by the urine. So, these are some of the important functions of the kidneys. So, we have discussed about the overview of the urinary system, the internal and the external anatomy of the kidneys. So, also we have seen the blood supply and the nerve supply to the kidneys and the important functions of the kidneys. So, this is a reference for my presentation. Thank you for watching.